I'm taking a cue from Trip this morning. These are my first thoughts. Sorry, Emily. I know I probably have to respond to your video, but I watched it at a bad time. I watched it in the middle of my vacation, in the middle of my wedding weekend, and I honestly have no idea what you said, so move it along. Please don't wait for my response. If I get to it, I'll get to it. Not for the lack of trying. Not using the recorder this morning. Quick and dirty setup. Because it's 8:33 right now. I'm very late. I'm very tired. I did not want to get up this morning. Not at all. You know, I'm coming off this great weekend. This weekend of anything but the status quo. And the fear has always been, okay, well, we're back to the drudge. Back to the routine. Furthermore, I had a great weekend of talking about brainstorming inventive, creative ideas. So that makes the return to the drudge that much more drudge-ish. Yesterday I had an opportunity to pitch some ideas, and to pitch some ideas to the very top man in charge. I didn't know what the opportunity was going to be. I didn't know that that was what it was shaping up to be. My paranoid neurosis was telling me I'm in trouble, because I have a track record of getting in trouble for speaking my mind. So but and you know, maybe all the cards haven't been laid out on the table yet, but you know, the big boss, Mr. Holler himself, Roger Holler, came and chatted with us during our staff meeting yesterday about the radio stations, about these radio stations he bought, and what he's doing with that. And I'm not going to get into it too much, but I'm going to say that it was much needed, because I think we needed, you know, we had no idea what the hell was going on. And this is effectively the second time I've had a conversation with this man, which is not a good or bad thing. I'm just saying that he's never attended our meetings before. He's never had any active role that we've seen. It was always, if he had any role, it's through my boss, Luke Burkhart. Luke, my boss. That's all that matters. Anyway, it was, you know, the knowing that he was coming and not knowing what it was going to be about was disconcerting. But just went with it, and as it turned out, it was a very, if there was something bad about it, it wasn't upfront, it wasn't obvious, and I realized that, you know, we're sitting in this very small room with the owner of the radio companies, and this is probably going to be the only opportunity to make my pitch. And remember the conundrum. I'll make a pitch to Luke, but he can't sell it. He can't move it up. He can't take it down the hall. So Luke is where good ideas go to die. And I need to clarify, because I was talking about this with Sam last night, and she kept... It's not that he doesn't think that they're good ideas. It's just that he can't sell. He can't. And what I'm realizing, or well, I've known, but I guess maybe I'm embracing, something I'm good at is getting people excited about an idea. I just did it with Trip. And boy, that excitement, I mean, it snowballed, and you know, that's the fuel to get the fire started. So I had this opportunity yesterday. Who knows when I would have another one? The tricky part is that it's in front of my boss. So I don't know. Well, I don't know if the trick. It's in front of my boss, and the other thing is, I'm still, you know, I'm big on speaking my mind, but I still need my job. I still need to pay my bills. So, and I tend to not have as much tact as I probably should have. So the gut reaction, my gut instinct, is to kind of lay into him for why the hell would you invest in radio stations, and lay down some really harsh criticism about the future of radio. So again, you know I've got this opportunity as he's going on about radio conventions and radio as a technology investment and not a broadcast investment. And I'm just like, I have no idea what I'm going to sell. I know the opportunity is coming up really fast. Do or die. What am I going to do? I have no idea. Finally, he goes, so that's where we're at. Do you guys have any questions? And I mean, I really was hesitant, because the other end of the equation here is that, you know, it's something we've talked about a lot, something that I'm really starting to embrace, thanks to Slacktive's encouragement. You know, I shouldn't expect creative fulfillment from this job. I shouldn't. When I do, I am very disappointed, and I get very depressed. So there's that. There's another instinct to just nod my head, smile, and say, good luck with that. Just leave it. Just, you know. But if we want a revolution, somebody somewhere's got to say something. So I did. And I pitched a couple ideas, and I got some ideas. I probably should stop for that. I made my effort, and I did it in the set. And I did it. I think I did it very tactfully, a lot more tactfully than my conversation with him last week. And you know, my challenge in this again was that all he's talking about are ad dollars, advertisers, and the money of this business. Same shit, right? Same shit. We can't get away from, everybody's so focused on the money. And then he's talking about, and the way content was talked about was in terms of buying syndicated news programs, or, you know, syndicated content packages. You just pay a fee, and it's a turnkey solution. You don't do anything but provide the airwaves. And just, where's the fun in that? Where's the fun in that? So that was my challenge. How to kind of get him to think about content in a creative way. How to think about content in a creative way. Not business, not money, is not economics, not financials, but think about the environment that you want your advertisers to support. Think about the environment that would encourage advertisers to say, here's my money. And I'm fairly certain these ideas are not being presented. These ideas are not being considered. So in that respect, I have a huge opportunity to make a mark, because my dart is going to be the only one on the wall, on that creative wall, on the content wall, creative content wall. So I just had to present some ideas in a way that were tactful, that were unoffensive, and just made some kind of positive impact. And there was, a whole train of thought that kind of led to all of this. But the first idea that I pitched was the crowdsourced. First of all, there was a lot of talk about social media or finding a niche and exploiting markets. There's the YouTube revenue stream that, what radio station do you know of that actually truly takes advantage of the internet and YouTube? And if you're gonna have, that, I'll stay tightly on point here. So my pitch was this crowdsourced news-based vlogs. Tube Dorks, Orlando Insider Vlogatorium. It is the Vlogatorium, what I'm doing with Trip. You have, but on a much broader scale, where you have your target market submit vloggers, just people, here's these topics on the table, they submit their videos, and then you have a team of editors that cut that into content that gets published. And what that spun off into, a very long, meandering conversation about finding talent, and talking about podcasts, and talking about people, talent scouting for talent at the top tiers, which is so pointless, because people up there would laugh at a at a pitch to broadcast their show on radio. They'd laugh at it. Why? So then it became about scouting for talent at the unknown, and that was my point from the get-go. But I think that finally took root somewhere, because after all the conversation, he kind of circled back around to it. So that was the feather in my cap, the fact that he circled back around to it as a cool idea. So yeah, I made my pitches and talked about it, and it was at the end of the day, I feel good that I had that opportunity and I took advantage of it. Am I putting any stock in it? No, of course not. Do I expect any major revolution? No, it's a seed that's planted that I can't expect anything to happen to it. But it is very important for this frame of mind, because and I guess I'm going to have to save this for later. I'll email my thoughts to Chris, and then I'll talk about them tomorrow. But this frame of mind because I've been talking with Chris, and it's kind of a turn of phrase that he's been using a lot lately, and I'm certainly embracing it, because I don't want to come home to the drudgery. I don't want to come back from Vegas, from getting married, from anything but the status quo, to get back to the status quo. And we know what we need to do. We know what the model is. Trip and I, we're figuring it out. We're doing it. We're building something. Not quite sure what it is yet, but we're building something. And I'm just thinking about my first thoughts this morning are with Chris. And this, how we're talking. It's time for a revolution. It's time to change things. And my first thoughts, I know it's long circle back to this, but my first thoughts were, Chris, you've been doing the same thing. You've been doing the same thing. And the question is, how sustainable is it? My first thoughts was, let me put on my producer cap. Let me do what I'm doing with Trip, what I pitched for Roger and his radio station. And I believe that our 20-minute meeting yesterday was probably the most interesting and exciting idea session that he's experienced. I think the likelihood of that in recent time with this radio station, I want to believe that. I think I inspired and got him excited. That's the point. And so if I'm putting on my producer hat and I'm thinking about it, I'm going, what the hell are you doing, Chris? We have the tools. You have the tools. You have the talent. You have the skill set. You know what you need to do to start a revolution, to revolutionize what you're doing. But I think because of your skill set, because of your talents, you're in such high demand for these live shows, for this live performing. And I know you got a passion for it. But I am of the belief, having sat here and watched you all this time, I am of the belief right now that this path is not sustainable. I think you're getting old. You're getting old. You're going to burn out before this ever pays off. And I know that's harsh words. That's a harsh thought. But you're saying it yourself, man. You're saying it yourself. We need a revolution. We need to find time. We need to get to the things we want to do so that we don't have to go back to the drudgery. Well, you haven't done it yet. You haven't, and granted, neither have I. But you haven't done it yet, and you have been consistent and persistent with this live performance stuff. You have. Put that persistence, put that consistency into the web. Make the music videos. Get your own music produced. I believe the Aristocracy was probably, to my ears, the most unique sound you've ever produced. And that's fallen to the wayside. I think the Aristocracy as the sound and as the footprint, as the framework for an aggressive, prominent internet presence, videos, shows, whatever the case may be, online, that could have been the revolution. That could have been the revolution. So the question is, how do you go back to it? I got a bird sitting on my rearview mirror. How do you go back to that? Should you go back to it? I think, and this sounds harsh, but what I'm doing is I'm saying, Chris LeBrain is talking about these revolutions. Chris LeBrain is saying we need to do this. And what I'm saying is your status quo is burning yourself out on stage. And I think you need to go backwards to go forwards. Because that's the one thing you haven't done. That's the one thing I've laid out. We've talked about the projects. So I've laid out the ideas, and it's always been an issue of not having the time. I don't even remember the name of it, but you remember it was a year ago, 2 years ago. This crowd, somebody submits a song idea, and your show is about collecting that song idea, producing that song, and having that finished product. That's the whole episode. Haven't seen it before. Haven't seen it yet. And I think that, or maybe it does exist. But dude, that would be brilliant. That would be, do a weekly show, monthly show, whatever the case may be, where you're doing that. I think, and maybe that's the idea, that the status quo isn't what we expect it to be. Maybe Chris, you're living this really extreme life. You're staying up, producing music, you're sleeping 2 hours a day, you got your radio show, you're going to work and your day job making a buck, and you're like, I don't live a status quo life, but maybe that's the point. Maybe you've been doing the same thing. Your status quo, no matter how extreme it may be, still the status quo. I'm gonna write this out. I'm gonna send you some notes. I know you sometimes watch these, don't always, but I'm gonna send you some notes, and I'm gonna lay out a plan. Whether you want to subscribe to it or not, I'm gonna put it on the table and let you get excited about it. The revolution, we know what we need to do. The revolution's gonna be online. And the tools are there to do that. And you have the talent. This is the thing. Trip has the skill set. Trip has the niche. He has the talent. I'm too broad. I've been trying it, and I'm too broad. And I haven't had the tenacity and persistence. But Chris, you have I think you're like Trip. I undoubtedly you are like Trip. I 100% believe you're like Trip. You just need the content in place to start building that up. That's your revolution, man. That is what you need to do. I gotta get into the office here. I gotta get back to my status quo. Stay creative.